Nearly 2,000 years ago in Jerusalem, Jesus Christ was led to his crucifixion, described in the Bible as being like a lamb led to the slaughter. Isaiah 53 verse 7. The core issue humanity faced was sin, which created a separation between mankind and God. Romans 3 verse 23. God's solution to this problem was Jesus, the promised Messiah. He was sacrificed so that humanity's sins could be forgiven, and the penalty of sin, death, would pass over us. Much like the protection provided by the blood of the Passover lamb during the Exodus 12 verse 13. This connection is why the Apostle Paul wrote, "For Christ, our Passover lamb, has been sacrificed." 1 Corinthians 5 verse 7. Each spring, during the Easter season, Christians from all over the world journey to Jerusalem. Many carry crosses as they walk to the site of Golgotha, also known as the place of the skull. The traditional site of Golgotha is commemorated today by the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. This place holds deep historical and spiritual significance for Christians, as it marks the location where Jesus was crucified. However, some believe Golgotha is located at a different site nearby, known as Skull Hill or Gordon's Calvary, which visibly resembles a skull. Historical and archaeological exploration. The earliest recorded tradition associates the site of Jesus' crucifixion with the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. This church has stood for nearly 1,700 years, built by early Christians to honor the sacred ground where Jesus was believed to have died for the sins of humanity. Over the centuries, the church has been destroyed and rebuilt multiple times, yet its significance has never diminished. In the 1960s, Italian archaeologist Virgilio Corbo excavated the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. During his work, he discovered an agricultural layer beneath the church. This soil layer contained seeds of grapes, figs, and olives, indicating that the site was once a garden. This aligns with the biblical account in John 19 verse 41, which states, "Now in the place where he was crucified there was a garden, and in the garden, a new tomb in which no one had yet been laid." Later, in the 1970s, Israeli archaeologist Naaman Avigad conducted excavations in Jerusalem's Jewish quarter. He uncovered a Roman street known as the Cardo Maximus, which ran through the ancient city. Beneath this street, Avigad found remnants of an older city wall and a gate that dated back to the early Roman period, the time of Jesus. Avigad identified this gate as the Garden Gate, mentioned in historical texts, and believed to lead to the garden where Golgotha was located. Hebrews 13 verse 12 confirms that Jesus suffered outside the city gate, emphasizing that the location of the crucifixion was beyond the city walls of Jerusalem at that time. The expansion of Jerusalem and Hadrian's influence. Approximately 11 years after Jesus' crucifixion, Jerusalem's boundaries expanded to the north, bringing Golgotha within the city limits. Following the destruction of Jerusalem by the Romans in 70 AD, Emperor Hadrian rebuilt the city around 130 AD as a Roman settlement called Aelia Capitolina. Hadrian constructed a pagan temple over Golgotha and placed a statue of Venus, the Roman goddess of love, on the site. Early church father Jerome wrote about this desecration, noting that it was intended to undermine the Christian faith. Despite this, the site remains sacred to Christians, who continue to venerate it as the place where Jesus demonstrated the ultimate act of love by dying for humanity's sins. 1 John 3 verse 16. The restoration by Constantine. In 324 AD, Constantine the Great, the first Christian emperor of Rome, ordered the destruction of Hadrian's temple. He commissioned the construction of a new church, known as the Martyrium, to honor the site of Jesus' crucifixion. This church, along with subsequent structures, was built over the same sacred ground and eventually became the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. The significance of Golgotha. Golgotha, also called the place of the skull, is mentioned in Mark 15 verse 22, which says, "They brought Jesus to the place called Golgotha, which means the place of the skull." The term likely refers to the shape of the hill or its association with death and crucifixion. Archaeological evidence, such as the remains of ancient steps and structures, provides further insight into the historical authenticity of this site. The connection between the biblical descriptions and the findings of Corbo and Avogadro supports the traditional identification of Golgotha as the location of Jesus' crucifixion. The message of the cross. The significance of Golgotha goes beyond its historical and archaeological context. It is the place where Jesus fulfilled God's plan of salvation. As John 3 verse 16 declares, "For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life." Through his death on the cross, Jesus bore the punishment for humanity's sins, offering redemption and reconciliation with God. This act of selfless love serves as the foundation of the Christian faith and continues to inspire believers around the world. The story of Golgotha is a profound reminder of God's love and sacrifice. The historical and archaeological evidence affirms the authenticity of the traditional site, while the biblical accounts reveal the spiritual significance of this sacred place. As Christians reflect on the events of the crucifixion, they are reminded of the hope and salvation offered through Jesus Christ. His sacrifice not only fulfilled ancient prophecies, but also provided a way for humanity to be restored to a relationship with God.
If you found this video enjoyable, please consider liking and sharing it. Additionally, subscribing to this channel will ensure that you receive more updates in the future. Thank you.